Hello everyone, I'm Ryan. Today I'm reacting to Should I Marry or Chase My Dreams? Acharya. So this is a interesting one that I saw on his channel. Um, the thing is though, is that's really kind of weird. I do believe women are probably slightly more confused than men in this modern day, only because there's obviously there's propaganda in a lot of places. And sometimes a lot of women will say that, oh, yeah, the career is the best thing you ever had. And for those women, it probably is. But for some women, it probably wasn't. So this is kind of the reason why it's a hard decision or more confusing for women, in my opinion, is because they do have a time limit of when they can have babies. So, if you want to have babies and you decided early on that the career was your choice, you could pass your time and then that's it. Whereas men, well, obviously, if you're sterile, that's a bit of a different story. That can apply to both genders anyway. But men can have babies for, well, make babies, I guess, for a lot longer period of time. So it's not as much of a time crunch. But I think there's obviously some type of biology involved in that. You look at throughout history of the human history, you know why. Hopefully, my assumption is I know why males can have babies, much not obviously birth, but to continue to have babies past a certain point. Same thing, and a little bit of the same thing with the females. So, anyways, I've answered this a few times in the Acharya videos that there are in the Western civilization, Western world, there are women out there who focus on their career. They became boss babes and regretting that decision now because they can't have babies, and they're looking at their lives right now. It's like, I wish I had a baby. They're depressed, even though they have make a lot of money. But the thing is, though, is that a career is not necessarily something that will always give you joy. Again, something is kind of external. Um, because a career is just still technically a job, and you still have bosses that you have to abide by, even if you're the CEO, because your boss is going to be your customers, and your boss is going to be your subordinates. And what I mean by this is the fact that they're going to tell you what's wrong, and you're going to have to find a solution for them in some sense. I'm not a CEO, so I don't know exactly what to do. I know they make big decisions, and they have to make sure that the company makes money, so they have to fix problems to some degree. Where there are some women out there who, I think, because of modern times, maybe don't want babies. But I think those are far fewer in between, though. But I do believe it to be growing. So, marriage or chase my dreams. What if it'd be wonderful if both of those are one and the same. You're marrying someone that is your dream, then it's easy. But anyways, um, there is a little bit of a middle ground to that. You could marry and have a kid early on, and then chase your career later on in life, because once you turn to a certain age, you can't have any more babies. So you can at that point, and also at that point, your children are mostly adults now, and you can focus on your career 100%. You're to have a child, they're an adult that can take care of themselves, and you probably can't have babies anymore, so you have nothing stopping you at all. Whereas if you do it the opposite way, um, if you forget about it, you don't find the right person. Again, there's another thing too, finding the right person, so you don't just have a baby just because you want a baby, and just do it because you want it and not find the right person for it. That's going to be bad, in my opinion. Really weird I'm going on about this. But I think this is important things to talk about. So again, a lot of people say early on. I used to think later on, wait till you get your career started and then do it. But a lot of them made a good point about when you have a baby or whatever. Sometimes you just you're going to be taking off a lot of time off work. There's going to be interruption in your career. And then if you wait too long, you could miss. You're struggling to find the right person to be with. While you're young, you should focus on that to find the right person. You have time, and then you can then when you find the right person, marry. If again, it's really hard. Again, like I said, I do feel sympathy for women about this, about career or having a child, because maybe early on in your life you're like, I don't want a child, but then later on in your life you're like, I should have had one, and now it's too late. That's I would say that is a pretty big fear for women, and I 100% agree. There's just nothing. None of men can't. I won't say can't experience that, but generally speaking, men have that easier, just because no matter almost as long as everything being normal, we can have babies later on in life. Whereas if everything being normal for a woman, they still have that time limit. There's weird to say an expiration date, but it's different for different women. But you still don't want to push your luck. I've heard of weird stories where women are freezing their eggs and stuff, but it costs a lot of money to do that, and it's not guaranteed. So again, this is something I definitely feel sympathy for women on. I hope that you make the right choice in the very beginning, whether it's a career or to have a family. Um, I will say though, if you have a family, focus on that first, because you can always start your career later on. Because you cannot start like the things that you can start later on in life. Family's not that. Once you pass whatever your expiration date is, that's kind of it for you. But you can start your career later on. You can have your family now, and then focus 100% on your career once your children are essentially old enough to be on their own. I am way going too much into this, but I hope I made my point. So I'm kind of curious of what Acharya Prashant here has to say. I mean, marry, it's not necessarily saying having kids, but that's kind of the assumption, I guess.
My degree is just 6 months, and they're like, just finish off your degree and then we will find someone for you.
Before I start answering your particular question, what if all these roses, garments, and ornaments just a cover up for fear? There is something happening culturally in this country, something very, very vicious. They say, there is great dignity in household work. Yes, I understand there's great. Let the men do it. Why do the men want to be deprived of dignity? Listen, lady, this ugly world, this world understands only the language of power. Women die a very early death internally. A lot of women hate me from their guts. If they find me, they'll slash my throat. Extremely visceral hatred. You know why they hate me? The fact is, every 15-year-old needs to listen to this.
That's a bit extreme, and she's blurred out. So, so again, the explanation, man. Yeah, men can like there should. It's never going to be equal in a relationship in terms of what you do. Like if you're a stay-at-home wife, you're going to have a little bit more chores to do. And I'll say this. I thought about this. It's like, women have it a lot easier now in terms of the past, in terms of household chores. I can tell you from personal experience about these things. So even I had to do it because of my culture. So for example, washing your clothes. We have washing machine in the Western civilization and a lot of modern civilizations. Or modern cities. Let me put it that way, because there could be a modern civilization that's not have a modern equipment, but more modern cities. How long does it take to wash clothes in the past before washing machines? It took a long time. That's the reason why typically women did those things. And well, I think most of the reason why women typically did those things is because most of the jobs out there are architectural, like building skyscrapers, doing a lot of the paving of roads, highways, sewer work, which requires a lot of strength. That's the reason why, generally speaking, men were out working, and you need someone to clean your clothes. There wasn't washing machines, and you had to literally hand wash it. I hand washed my clothes when I was younger. It wasn't. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's fine. It's not necessarily too hard, but it's just a lot. I literally hand wash my clothes when I was younger, because we don't where I was growing up don't have what you call it, dishwashers, or not dishwashers. Sorry, didn't have dishwashers either, but don't have washing machines. So, and you had to all hang dry all your clothes. I guess my society, my culture was a bit more traditional in the sense, but that's most cultures, before modern technology. Women typically cooked and cleaned, men typically went out and worked. Why? Because most of the work out there is still construction because civilization is still developing. You had to build those buildings, carry heavy equipment, carry heavy materials and yeah, materials like concrete and stuff. Like the men in my society and my culture, literally having concrete bags, 80-pound bags of concrete, about 4 high, so about what's that? 160, 320, 320 pounds, carrying that stuff all the way to the top, walking, by the way. So it's when technology makes things easier, that's when women can go into the workforce. Or even you look at the old school movies and stuff where you had women in like secretarial jobs where it's not hard work, it's just a lot of answering the phones, a lot of paperwork. It doesn't require strength. Requires education and I'm gonna say technique, but I don't know if that's the right word, like writing and stuff, like good penmanships. I don't know what you call that, technique probably. But yeah, and again, like I said, men typically was skyscraper work. People they were dying because there was safety was complete crap in the past. You're I don't know 32 floors above the 32 floors up, and you have no safety gear because that wasn't a thing back in the day. So that's the reason why we have these roles. It's not because of oppression or anything. It's just because the roles fit. Women couldn't carry heavy bags. I'm sure there were some in the past, but there was just not enough. So that's the reason why we have these roles in a sense. So anyways, what was I getting at? So again, washing machine, very easy. You just have to throw it in there, and that's it. Wait for it, and then put it in the dryer. Relatively speaking, very easy. Folding's the hard part. I will give it that. But again, compared to what it was in the past, you don't have to hand wash it, hand dry it, then freaking hand fold it. You just have to hand fold it now. Cleaning the house. And again, men can take responsibility for this to make sure that they're not messy when they come in. That'll make things easier. That's something you can get onto them about, or anyone in general. But now you have vacuum cleaners where instead of having to sweep, in my culture, you take off your sandals or shoes at the door so to keep it less messy. But you also have coconut husks, and you'd scrape the floor to clean it because all our floors are concrete. But now you have these automated vacuums too, where this little robot things that just go around vacuuming. You can program at night to go vacuum, and in the day you just kind of pick up just the little things that it may have missed, or you just leave it there for the next day for it to clean up, and then you just have to empty those out. Like things are becoming easier to do, and less people have to kind of stay at home. So it's not to say that these are replacing women's jobs, but it's not women are having more free time. They can actually go out and work. And there's not a lot of I am going too deep into this thing. I'm sorry. I don't know if you guys like this or not. I do, because I do want to explain everything. These things are not very simple to explain. It requires a lot of explanation because there's going to be people out there who get fed. It's like, oh, why can't women do this, or why can't men do this? It's like, no, it's not as simple as that. There's more to it. I just can't get too deep into it because I talk too much. We're only a minute in, and there's already 14 minutes gone by. I talk already too much. So, let's just keep going. I need to stop talking. Oops.
Namaste, Acharya ji. It's my first interactive session with you online, and I'm really very excited but also nervous. So, my question is, you said in one of your videos that close your eyes and identify if you had no fear, then what would you be doing currently in your life? And then just do that. However, in another video, you also mentioned that do not do what you want, because whatever you want comes from external influences. And so whatever we want may be useless and not really meaningful. So what to follow? What our heart says, or something which we are not interested in but it's meaningful? Sir, because I'm in my CL final level, and I'm also interested in many extracurriculars like dancing and performing arts, but I've never tried it. I'm good in dance, and I also spend 1 hour a day to go to dance sessions, but I'm currently living in Bathinda in Punjab. So I did do jobs in Delhi and Gurgaon and in finance and accounts department. And then I also worked for a startup in IB investment banking. After a point, I've switched many jobs and put a gap in between and have tried multiple things. But now my parents have said that just finish your college, finish off your degree, and then you can do anything you want. Now, as time is passing, and I'm seeing that they're saying that it's now your age to marry, but my degree is just 6 months. I mean, I'll get my final degree in 6 months, and they're like, just finish off your degree and then we will find someone for you. So, like, there are many things which I want to explore for myself, but I'm very, very confused what to do.
Okay, actually, I just thought of this, and this is something hopefully can put a lot of people's perspective real quick. I know I talked a lot. Hey, I'm so sorry, but these things are so loaded, and I wish I could summarize this, but again, I'm just reacting to this video with no preparation, and I've not seen this. So this is, and here's a very, very kind of simple way of doing it. It's not the only way, but it's, I think, a major, major way to think about this. Find out how much time you have to do something. An example. I stopped going to college right now. Let's see, I went to college, say, just an example, it's not the truth. I went to college about 20 years ago, and I know, I'll finish college. And then 20 years from now goes by, and then I finish college. At any point in my life, I can finish college. There's nothing stopping me from finishing college. There is no time limit in finishing college. So, the counter argument, I'm sure someone will say, is like, well, if you want to start your career in something, you might need a college education. Absolutely, absolutely. No doubt there. But outside of that, getting just a degree in something, a lot of people in America have degrees in something and they're not using it. So I'm hoping that's not the case for her or anyone else, honestly, but the sad truth of the matter right now, at least in the Western world or at least in America, is there's a lot of people with college degrees, college debt, and they're not getting jobs in it. So please get college degrees in something that will get you a job. At the very least. So outside of that, I have as many years to get a college degree. She's talking about dancing. She's talking about music or something. Is there at any point you can just not, do you have to finish dance at a certain point before you can't dance anymore? Sure, maybe you might get injured later on in life. Maybe you don't, but you have until that point to finish. You don't know what your life is going to be like. And some counter argument with that, that's the exact reason why you want to do it early on, is because you don't know if you're going to get injured or later on or not. But that's the thing, you don't know. And now I'm going to get to the other point. As a woman, she does have a definitive cutoff point to become a mother. No doubt. Generally speaking. Now, there are exceptions to the rules where people have given birth later on in life, but that's a high risk to do. So, and this is the whole point I'm trying to say. You're accepted in college even when you're 90 years old. Actually, I remember going in my college days, there was an elderly person going to college just to get a degree. She was bored. And hey, you know what? More power to you. Um, there are older people out there wanting to learn how to dance, and they have. There's no, those technically speaking, all things being normal, there is no real time limit to those things. Being a mother, at least having a biological child, that has a time limit, without a doubt. So, and this is the biggest thing. And again, I explained this a little bit earlier, but this is the thing that I do 100% feel sympathy on women for, is the fact that you have. I'm laughing because it's ridiculous, but it's the truth. You have to know what you want much earlier on in life. The men are lucky on this decision that, all things being normal, they can have babies later on in life should they want one. Obviously, they're going to have to struggle to get someone young, but outside of that, they can have babies later on in life. So, That being that I think hopefully a helpful factor for anyone out there watching this and listening to this is that find out the time limit. When is that cut off range? It's kind of like, okay, that dance school says that you can't sign up if you're 30 years or older, and this one says 40 years or older. It's like, so I can learn how to dance until I was 40 years old. So at 35, I could join that school and learn how to dance. There's no cutoff range technically in these things, but there is for being a mother. And so that being the important thing, again, take that into consideration when making your decision. College degrees, you can always go to college, get a degree later on in life when you're 35 or 45 years old. Say you're 45 years old, spend 5 years in there to turn to 50, then you have 20 years in your career. If you get it when you're 35, then you have 35 years in your career. So you can always get it later on, and you'd have the newest up-to-date stuff, and you already done the things that have a time limit on. I just want to see if I sound close to what
This
Acharya.
is, before I start answering your particular question, see, this is what this country does to women, you know. The woman counts her days. She says, let me do whatever can be done of life before marriage. Because after marriage, all this exploration and discovery and adventure will anyway come to an end. Makes me sad, also makes me angry, depends on the mood. Anyway.
I can kind of understand that to a degree. That's what's being said, but it's not necessarily always the truth. It depends on the situation for every individual, and I'm hoping that's what he means.
Don't feel that way. Once they get married, they won't be able to go out and seek things or explore or find doors closed. Okay.
I would say no, it's pretty similar. Don't get me wrong, in terms of like if the man's working while the woman's off having a child, that's where the difference can happen. But a man can't go exploring, as in he can't go fly to somewhere to explore. That's money that needs to be spent at home. When you have a child, it's very expensive. As a matter of fact, I have two coworkers who recently just had a child, and they're in debt, kinda. One is irresponsible, the other one's very responsible. But he's working himself out of debt. Mind you, the debt's like nothing really. It's just because of the child, he had to buy a lot of things in a hurry. Plus, he's a little bit irresponsible with his money, but it's something they can easily get out of, no problem. And the other one's very responsible. He has actually two children, and yeah, they're in. He's not going out places. He's saving money, providing for the child. So he has to work for his children. So unless he's talking about just fathers who just leave their women or leave their son just to go do whatever they want, then that's a completely different story. Then yeah, I guess for those people, they're irresponsible people in general and irresponsible fathers. Then yeah, screw them.
So you said, the first thing I said was close your eyes without fear. Do what comes to you, right? That was the first statement that spoke of being without fear. And the second one that you quoted talked of being without your
Without biases.
desires. You said, do not do what you want. Do not just go with your random desires. The first one is talking of being without fear, and the second one is talking of being without the usual kind of desires. And if these two sentences are to agree with each other, what would that need?
Do something that you do not fear and do not desire.
Just equate these two sentences each other, assuming that the speaker has some integrity. So he won't be talking of two different things at 2 points. If these two sentences are coming from the same center, then these two will agree with each other, no? And if you equate these two with each other, what do you get?
No fear is no desire. No fear is equals to no desire.
So fear equals desire. That's the key to understand.
I was going to say, like, without fear, because you would have no attachments and no desire, so that means you do it for other people, not for yourself. So that way there's no it goes back to no attachment too as well. That was my assumption. I should have said that first, so I don't say, oh yeah, see, I said the same thing as Acharya here. Obviously, I had listened to him. I try to say everything in the very beginning so that you can call my bullshit out if I said, nope, that's what I meant actually.
But typically, your desires are deeply related to your fears. First comes the fear and then comes the desire. And the desire is always a cover-up job on the fear. And that too a bad cover-up job. The fear remains, and a lot of time and energy is spent on the desire, and yet even the fulfillment of the desire fails to cover up for the fear. The fear still remains.
Is it because that even though you've accomplished what you desire, you're still fearful of losing it?
Fear still remains. That's what
Oops, sorry.
we are probably missing on.
Because, what you accomplish can still be taken away. It's not once you achieve that it's always there. There's always still a chance of losing it. I'm wondering if that's what he means.
We take fear as a negative thing, no? You should not have fear in life, beta.
Not necessarily. I don't.
Equally, we take desire as something to be pursued. Go chase your desires. Go get what you want. No, this is ignorance. You look at any desire that you have that has arisen just as a blind reaction to an inner ignorance. I feel I lack in something, and that's related to fear. When you lack in something, then, oh my God, am I missing out on life? I lack in something, fear. We feel we lack in something, and then to make up for that lack, we want an object. Today this object and tomorrow that one. That's desire. One does not desire for nothing. If you were totally all right with yourself, if you were very fulfilled within, would you still have these same desires that you currently have? No. So all desires arise from a feeling of incompleteness. And there is a great insecurity. What if I live all my life?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, and that's the thing that I was talking about in terms of being a mother. Like there are, and I now I can't. And that's my assumption of what he's saying here. Is like, it's not obviously just motherhood. Sorry, excuse me. But it's just not just motherhood, but it is part because of she is a woman, so she can miss out on this. And same thing with fathers or men too, where if they wait too long or whatever the case, they don't pursue what they want, they could lose out on fatherhood too, even though they have a longer time frame. That doesn't just because you have a longer time frame doesn't mean that you're guaranteed to have what you want as well. Sorry, geez, I need to stop coughing. Okay, but yeah. So this is the thing where a lot of Western women, I think Sadhguru talks about this, where the Western world, maybe Western women, probably the Western world is using a lot of drugs, legal drugs. And I know in watching the red pill stuff, I call it red pill, but I don't know if it's necessarily red pill anymore. But anyways, that there are a lot more women starting to become more and more into antidepressant and stuff. I think Sadhguru did talk about that, and it is, I do believe it to be growing. But anyways,
Meaning incomplete. What if I die unfulfilled? In fact, you would have heard these statements often. In fact, these are some of the same statements that scaremongers use to target women especially. अकेली रह जाएगी, बुढ़ापे में अकेली मरेगी. No? The more you hear such warnings, the more you covet a darling husband. Even though you know what that fellow is probably going to bring to your life. Wanting per se is neither good nor bad. But when you want from a point of ignorance, when you have never bothered to see that even if your want is fulfilled, it would still leave you unfulfilled, then wanting is a problem. Nothing is always a problem. And everything is a problem from the wrong center. Wanting from the wrong center is a problem. You can also want from the right center. You can have targets from the right center. You can run huge projects and international missions from the right center. Forget small desires. You can have mammoth desires from the right center and they would still be great. We are told, no, you should not desire too much. You can desire too much. And that would still be all right if the desire is from the right center. And even the feeblest desire from the center of ignorance.
I was going to say, what does it mean by right center? Because then I remember he said the wrong center. So I get I do believe I get what he's saying. So you can have big ambitions and stuff, so long as it's coming from the right, the correct center. As in, like, if your ambition is just to do good, not because it is part of your selfish desire. Generally speaking, selfish desires tend to be bad. So I'm assuming that's what he means. Essentially, it's that so long as regardless of how monumental or little a desire is, so long as something for good and it's not for selfish reasons, generally speaking, it'll be a good one, regardless of how big it is or small.
Not be right. Not be right for you. We are not talking in the moral sense here. We are talking in the utilitarian sense here, in the practical sense here. Getting it? There has been lately this controversy. Some internet chaps and comics and stand-up artists, and they have said a few things, and there is a general outrage and everybody is outraging, and massive. So it's all over the place. I was scrolling through my reels and it appeared there as well. So there is this girl who is a part of the controversy. There was a small clip that appeared on my screen. She was being interviewed by someone. She was actually being interviewed by someone who has interviewed me as well. So maybe that's the reason it appeared on my feed. So he asks her, and this girl, I do not know her, but from her get-up and mannerisms, she looks like the typical representative of Gen Z, outspoken, unafraid, outgoing, all those things. So this fellow asks her, What do you expect from your husband? A small, like 60-second thing. And she says, after a bit of a silence,
What's your ideal man?
यार मारे वारे ना.
बस यार मारे वारे ना.
What does that mean?
No. Typically, I just scroll away.
Oh, I'm gonna rewind that real quick. Was there a subtitle there? Yar mare vare.
Bit of a silence.
What's your ideal man?
यार मारे वारे ना.
बस यार मारे वारे ना. No. Typically, I just scroll away. But this wasn't a made-up thing. Or at least that's the way it appeared to me. And this wasn't coming from a small town girl coming from the interiors, Jharkhand or Chhattisgarh or Eastern UP. This is coming from someone who probably has a significant net worth. The passport carries stamps of at least 10-20 countries she has traveled to. And yet there is this fear that I would be beaten up in the marriage. I don't think she was joking at that point. That was half a second of authenticity.
Real quick, I tried to look it up. I don't know whether I'm looking it up correctly or maybe it's too, I don't know, what do you call it, niche kind of type of saying that maybe it's not on here. But from what I gathered, something like success in life or positive change in life, it's often used to taunt someone like, nope, like edita hoga vare nare means iskai kam tohogya. I have no idea. So it looks like it's different kinds of offerings or various types of gifts. Diversity in gifts, offerings, to any particular culture or ceremonies that leaders shared. So I'm guessing someone either very successful, very rich. I'm guessing that either successfully and making a lot of money, or just very rich, something like that. Let me know in the comments below. This is the kind of reason why I ask questions typically, because sometimes there's more meaning than when you can look up online. Sometimes there's very, how do I say cultural, but that's not the word. Like within the culture itself, like maybe even within the city itself, and that other cities have heard, but didn't quite translate to the internet yet, you know.
I shudder to think, what if all these roses and garments and ornaments just a cover up for fear? It's the wedding season, right?
There's a season.
The sky is pink. And still, another moment, another place, another day, the same person or somebody else like her, somebody else like, would be so desirous of getting into a relationship without ever bothering to inquire why. What is it within me that impels me in such a direction? Are your desires really your friends? Have you seen where your desires come from? And those who have stakes in your desires, will they ever want you to turn inwards? There is just fear within. Especially as a woman, if you will look into your heart, that's what you will find. Not love. The heart for a woman is hardly a symbol of love. That's why I feel so sad for this potentially great country. Half its population has nothing but fear in its heart. That's not to say that the other half is fearless. And from that fear, you can keep taking all kinds of decisions to get into a relationship, to not to get into a relationship, to take up a job, to quit from a job, to have a baby, to not have a baby, to shift to that place, to not to shift to that place.
Real quick, I kind of wanted to say this earlier. She was jumping from job to job. It seems like she doesn't know what to do with her life, and that's part of the reason why she's asking this question. Is because should I marry or chase my dreams? But the thing is, though, is that her dreams are so many. Her dreams is this job, dancing, singing, or whatever other things are. Because once you achieve that, there's another dream. Then once you achieve that, there's another dream. Once you achieve that, there's another dream. The problem isn't that she's achieving those dreams. That's great. There's a few people in the world who can achieve their dreams, but these dreams are there's just so many. It means that they're not fulfilling. Because once you achieve your dream, that should be good. You should be set, but it's not. So these are just, I don't know if you want to call them dreams per se, but they're probably better called goals, not dreams. Your dreams is something that once you achieve, I think you're good for life. Your goals are something that you can achieve and move on to the next one. Maybe there's a little bit of a technicality in terms of the termage there, the terminology, but I hope you understand what I mean. It's just that dreams tend to be things that are long term or takes a long time to achieve, or things that you achieve that is fulfilling. Goals are something that you want to do and you're happy that you reached it, but then you move on to the next goal, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong.
To cover up your body, to reveal your body, you can take all kinds of very distinct decisions from that same center, the center of fear. How does it matter? How does it matter if everything is coming from fear? Somebody is scared, I would be beaten up. She decides not to marry. Somebody is scared, I would be left alone. She decides to marry. How does it matter? How is it any different?
And what I'm getting from that's the sheer fact that it's, again, the same thing with like people, but I guess more specifically women who just because they're running out of time, they make terrible decisions and sleep with a terrible man, and then just to have a child just because they're running out of time, and they make poor decisions. I mean, and again, this applies to everyone really. Poor decisions because you're running out of time, because you're like you were saying. But yeah, poor decisions because you're running out of time. Poor decisions because you're being pressured into it. Poor decisions because you just want to have it now, not because you're running out of time. Kind of opposite there, but yeah, making an impulse decision or a decision without thinking or a decision because of a rush, or yeah, any of those things, it can be very bad, and it's not a great choice to make.
And what would be the quality of relationship? I beg to ask. So you're a man. A woman marries you because she is afraid of being lonely. As a man, should you accept that relationship? Instead, you catch the opportunities with both hands. You want to make her feel even more lonely so that she runs to you even faster. We used to have these scenes in the dark decade of Bollywood cinema, 90s. The hero wants to patao the heroine. So he lets loose a few goons upon her. Just to impress upon her that she is weak and vulnerable. And these goons are obviously buddies of the hero himself. And just when they are about to overpower her, he jumps from some goddamn branch of a tree and takes 4 of them down. And then the lady is all wooed and impressed. Find that cute? You're coercing someone to come to you by inducing fear in that person. That's continuously happening even today. Maybe in not as gross a form, but still happening. There maybe external goons were needed to forcefully make her admit that she is weak. Today you have internal goons, but there is just so much around to make her feel weak. And from that weakness, all kinds of decisions are being taken. And no decision, I repeat, is necessarily right or wrong. You obviously can take the decision to be married, and the decision can be wonderful, provided it is coming from the right center. But is the right center active at all in the first place? It cannot be selectively activated for the purpose of marriage. Or can it be? Everything about your life is coming from the wrong center. And just for one purpose, you say, this is the love of my heart. How come nothing else is coming from your heart in your life? Only this man happens to come from there. Consciousness itself shrivels. Have you seen how you behave when you are afraid? See a turtle when it's afraid? What does it do? It shrinks into itself. It covers itself up with its armor. Not a pretty sight, or is it? Turtles can be cute, but all that you get to see, if it's an armor, how cute is that? In the name of a turtle, if you see just the inverted plate, the armor, is it cute? No. That's how 1/2 of the population of my country looks.
I think in probably a lot of countries, honestly, but I get what he's trying to say. I mean, obviously I don't know India, and even claiming that I live in the United States, I don't know if it's true everywhere, but I think this is just an issue that's just rising everywhere, That applies to both, of course, but he talks specifically about the women in this particular case. Because of anxiety and social media and everything. I mean, he did talk about, you could almost closely say propaganda. And the very closer towards the beginning, he was talking something very similar to that. And where everyone is being, you could somewhat say, indoctrinated to a degree, and being exposed to propaganda to a degree. But also, hopefully, everyone has the responsibility to recognize that, to recognize what they learn, what they know, how they act, how they think, and even if they're being propagandized to, that they could hopefully see past that or analyze it, or maybe listen to it and not act upon it.
Only armored, because they operate from fear. And then I'm saying there is a shrinking. Whereas the nature of consciousness is to expand. That's where fulfillment of life lies, in expansion. Therefore, the scriptures, the philosophies often equate the true state of consciousness to the sky, in the sense of expansion and freedom and limitlessness. Where is expansion? Where is freedom? There is only the desperate urge for security. And one can understand that urge. If you are always behind someone, right from her childhood, chasing her, indoctrinating her, conditioning her, terrifying her, nobody is a superwoman. People do get terrified. And when you are afraid, you can get wicked. When you know what the world is doing to you, you want to give it back in the same way. And then men come up and play the victim. She exploited me. What the hell have you trained her for all her life? You have trained her to get exploited. He said, I have one fleeting chance here. Let me just pay them back in their currency. Isn't it tragic? Men come up on that same screen and ask questions about all things in life. And when women come up, 70% questions pertain just to you have left her with just this. She will not talk about the Middle East. She will not talk of the reciprocal tariffs that Trump and Musk are bringing in. She will not talk of Harley Davidson sales and what the tariff system will do to that. She will talk of that's 50% of your population. We are talking of 50% of our species. And I'm saying you starve the woman and you starve the man as well. Because man does require the woman as company. And if you have a person, you have yourself weakened and sickened and terrified and reduced. What will the company of that person do to you? Please tell me. I inject a certain virus into you. And then I keep you for my company. What am I doing to myself? I'm injecting that virus into myself. To you. That's what man has done to woman. You reduce the woman, and through the woman, you will be reduced.
I do wonder what he means by that. There's a certain thing that I do believe in that, where a lot of men tend to allow women to get away with things, which then reduces the women, which reduces the men. But again, I'm not exactly sure what he means by that. And if does anyone out there know, let me know. See if that's a good stopping point.
I'm sure this was not the direction you wanted my response to take. So you're free to, take it towards the place you wanted to take it to. Tell me.
Okay, I'm going to pause it right there, actually. That's a good praise. So a lot of things I do agree with him upon. I mean, and I know I spoke a lot, too. And hopefully I don't have that much to say in the next video, because good lord. There's a lot. Again, if you disagree with me, please by all means let me know why. Because again, I'm very much open to change my mind. But again, I've thought about these things How hard? Hopefully hard enough. I don't want my brain to explode. You can only do so much. So anyways, that's my reaction for at least part 1. Just should I marry or chase my dreams? Acharya Prashant. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. Thumbs up the sign down below. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next vid.